All right. Welcome, everyone, to the TinkerTribe podcast. I'm your host, Greg Dowd. And welcome to the show tonight. It's been a little while since I've seen you guys, but hope everybody's been doing well out there and y'all have been keeping up with yourselves. And everything's going pretty good. So, haven't been on here in a little while. I was on a guys' weekend, on a bachelor party weekend down in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I got back on Sunday. So, you know, kind of taking it easy into the week, kind of getting back into things, you know what I'm saying? So, um, been some stuff happening since I've been gone, and you know, more plans on getting community stuff done. We got out to the property that we've been working on and got a little bit of work done out there before I took off to New Orleans. So we got a little bit of that done, getting a greenhouse ready to go on that property so that we can start building this metal building that I pulled out there. And there's about a 2 acre plot that we're working on, and we're gonna be like clearing it gradually and starting some garden beds out there so that the aim is to be growing food for our animals. So, I know a lot of y'all out there are probably growing some animals and, doing what you can to, be more self reliant. Don't be relying on the grocery stores and everything like that. And you might be learning some preservation stuff for the first time. You might be canning some food, or salting some meat, or dehydrating food, or just freezing food and putting it away for the winter time. But that's the time to do it is around now. So if you can find some folks in your local area that can teach you some of that stuff, this would be a great time to get together and maybe focus on some of that. Maybe you can have a canning party. It's canning party time. So excellent. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's kind of some of the stuff that I've been working on. Still monitoring the aquaponics system and how it's working out there at the makerspace. And since things are starting to cool off, that I'm gonna have to start thinking about shutting down the system for the winter time, because I really don't have a good solution on keeping the gardening going for the winter right now. Somebody did give me a really good idea about taking an old trampoline and throwing some plastic, like creating some ribs for the trampoline and using the two arches for the ends, and then just draping it in some plastic. And so I might see if I can find a trampoline and pull that off. But if not, then it's going to start getting too cold in the outdoors for all the fish and all the plants that are growing in there right now. So yeah, there's a bunch of tomatoes in there. Some are doing better than others. So I think I'm going in there. I'm going to be pruning the ones that aren't doing so well and letting the rest of them fruit out the rest of their tomatoes. They're putting off several tomatoes now, but some of them, it doesn't look like they've put off any at all. Um, so yeah, I kind of learned from this effort, this first trial of this season, that you want, depending on your grow area in that bed, you want to be more selective on the ones that you keep, and you don't want to overcrowd the system. So, like, I did it the really lazy way. I seeded the system just by opening the packs of seeds and sprinkling them over the bed of rocks in the aquaponics system. And I really didn't do anything other than that, and just let everything grow that was going to grow, and I was pretty much hands off. But after seeing how this kind of grew out, the tomatoes dominated everything. They took up a lot of water, and then I think they were overcrowded. And so from learning that, I want to uh, shift it next time to growing things like the culinary herbs, and to be more selective on where I'm putting all the plants in the system, and that and I want to add a automatic water level for the system as well. So if you guys are joining me, if you're joining me for the first time, uh, thank you for stopping by. But this is a lot of what I talk about is things that I've done, some projects that I'm working on, things that I'm working toward. And then I try to share some solutions, some things that I'm thinking about on here, and seeing if maybe you're seeing some of the same things, and maybe you're a little bit like um, maybe you've got some fear in you that what's going to happen next. Well, I think if you start focusing on the positive things that you can do every day and that you have influence over, I mean that can multiply uh, several times, and you will be so happy that you focused on figuring some things out on your own and learning how to take care of yourself a little better, no matter what times you're in. Uh, if it's good times or if it's bad, it's like Jack Spirko likes to say, in the good times or in the bad, you're in a better position than you were yesterday. And you're also going to be able to help other people. And that's been a big theme that I've kind of run across from some of the folks that I've talked to recently, is that, you know, probably one of the best ways of getting people to see that there's a different way to live and, start to get more connected with nature and growing your own food, I think, is being that demonstration for somebody else. And so that, they're seeing what you're doing and they might want to replicate that, especially if you're able to share in some of your abundance in your own gardens, and if you have a farm or anything like that where you're growing some food for your community. And you know if you could be there to help all those people, man, they're going to be so grateful somebody was doing that and had the knowledge that they could be taught. And everybody in the community can look out for each other and get a better handle on your own food security. Um, so yeah, I think that's a really important thing. But yeah, I'll just show you a little bit from my Twitter page, that some of the things that I've been working on. And see if I can get here. And yeah, here's some mushrooms that were inoculated probably about 6 months ago, that harvesting right now. We just had one harvest of them, one fruiting of them. And then podcast guests. Here's some of the aquaponic system I was talking about. Some past podcast guests. This is a big shade cloth over that aquaponic system. Here are all the fish that are living in the tank right now in that system. This was kind of an update when I got some new growth on the tomatoes earlier in the season. Put some crawfish in there in the system, so So yeah, when I'm talking aquaponics, I'm talking about this system growing the fish and the plants together, and that's been set up for several months at the maker space out there, like toward the probably around May or so. I've had this out there and just kind of putting it through its paces. It's the first prototype of the that kind of design um, of a system. So we've been learning lessons about what works better than other stuff when we're deploying this system. So much more to be learned, but did get some ideas on making it better, like putting an automatic float where all this water collects at the end. That when you run out of water, you have some rain that you're collecting, and you are putting it back into that tank so that it can be used in the system. So whenever it's never going to run out of water down here, which happened a couple of times, and I'm not sure for the exact reasons, but I think maybe the tomatoes were the clogging some of the plumbing, and then because of all the roots, and then that caused some overflows and things like that. So overcrowding in the bed that I was growing in was the biggest problem, I would say, with the system there that we have. But yeah, that's a little bit about what I got going on, and always working towards doing some community projects and helping out other folks in my community. Um, I've done some farm sitting for people that had cows and or sorry, not cows, but goats, and did goat milking out there. And so I love doing that kind of stuff and being outside and helping other people where I can, and helping people get their projects done that they're working on. So and I think that's what we got to do to get together as a community, as a people. You know, if you got some folks around you that are interested in helping each other out, then we do this once a month thing called Get Shit Done uh, Day. So it's like kind of pick a project a month to go help out with, and whoever needs some help during that time, if you're available, you can come out and help. And I think that really helps to build your community, people working together, so that you have an invested stake in everybody's lives. And it just is really nice to know that there's some folks that would be there to lend you a hand if you ever needed another hand with something. Um, so that's something that I talk about a lot on here, is like build that network of people that you can work with and you can do things with, because I think it's so important, especially now that the word on the street, the news I'm hearing right now are the war drums, and it's just another thing to divide people and to start fueling the war, the military industrial complex, basically. I think that people are getting fed up with having to, as your border is crumbling and everything's going down in the south there on the border. Like, this is bad, man. Like, some of the stuff I've been listening to about all the trafficking going on down at the border uh, is crazy. And, you know, that's the funny thing, that meme going around. It's like, why is your guy like always thinking about Rome? And it's like, you see what's going on right now. There's a lot of parallels to what happened in the collapse of Rome and everything like that. And so it's interesting to kind of look at what's going on today and see how similar it was to what was happening in the past. And so, so anyway, with all this kind of propaganda going on, like beating the war drums and all that kind of stuff, I titled the episode "Bombs, Bullets, and Bullshit." What most of us are being fed is bullshit, and it's time that we focus on things that we can do to make a better reality for everyone. And what would you do? I mean, what would you do for freedom? And it might come with some consequences. Like, what if they called up a draft for the U.S. or whatever, and you had to go? You signed for the draft or whatever, and you're in that age range. What does freedom mean to you? Does it mean having to go off and die for what? You know, we got to have people here, showing that all these wars, all these wars are started over propaganda to drum up people to support this side or the other side. And it's always easy to play off people. Guess what? The politicians aren't picking up their rifles to go fight for whoever's cause. It's all just bullshit. So, um, what can we do? What can we focus on? And I think that it's good to know, like, what these guys are talking about with what's going on right now in Israel and Palestine. But, don't let whatever these guys are doing bait you into supporting a war. So that's my message. If I were to get one across for the night, it would be that. And then, you know, don't freak out and, start thinking about there's a new war. And now, how's that affecting all of your supply chains and, throughout the world? So, and I'm pretty sure, any new wars that happen are going to be, directly affecting, the global supply chains. So, um, something to think about. Something to think about, and what can you do a little bit every day? That's all you can do. And you can, just focus on. I think some of the really great content on YouTube, all the homesteading channels. There's a few I can recommend. David the Good, Billy Bond over there at Perma Pastures Farm, and Doug and Stacy off grid. Doug and Stacy. Those folks are doing some really good stuff to show people that what the information that you're not going to see on the mainstream news, and then everything that you see should be questioned and dug into for yourself. So, but I mean, Israel, like some of the things that I've seen about Israel is just like, uh, these guys are just like freaking taking over all this territory because they were promised it by, you look into that and it's like the Rothschilds had an influence in creating the nation state of Israel. So, A lot of that, the formation of that, like, is it really valid? And, what, to what end? To what end, do you go and help support another country when you should not be involved? So, um, so with that, I wanted to share one of these videos that I came across here. Um, just to just kind of go with this idea of supporting Israel at all costs.
What does supporting Israel at all costs look like? And then what are the consequences of that? If we support Israel at all costs, what if that leads to World War III? What if that leads to a nuclear war? Do you want to still support Israel at all costs? Is that still worth it to you? What if Americans get brought into this? What if our homeland becomes under attack or involved in a World War III? What if it's your sons and daughters getting drafted by the Biden administration to go fight in a World War III, started over a religious war, a holy war that has nothing to do with you? Is it still worth it to support Israel at all costs? What if supporting Israel at all costs means that we draw into a larger conflict with Iran? What if China and Russia have already decided geopolitically that they're going to be siding with Iran in this escalation? And then that leads to more escalation and more war and World War III or nuclear war. Do you still want to support Israel at all costs? I don't see people asking this. I see them jumping off the ledge. Hey, maybe you argue that morally, supporting Israel is the right thing to do. Geopolitically, supporting Israel is the right thing to do. But again, at what cost? We have to think about these things. The art of war, chess. That's how this stuff goes. So to everybody out there that's jumping off the ledge, we have to support Israel at all costs. I would just ask, what if that cost is World War III? What if that cost is our homeland, the United States of America, getting under attack? Do you still think we should support Israel at all costs?
Yeah, just kind of flip the script on the situation, and not going to be a good outcome. And it's always these guys. It's always these governments starting the wars. It's like it's the people that want to be left alone. The people just want to live in peace. And it's all these governments starting all these wars. I've said for a little while here that it'd be great to just send all the politicians off on an island or in an arena somewhere and just let them, if they want war, they just all show up, bring them all to some kind of island and put a bunch of scrap metal in a giant coliseum and let them fight their war. So, just something to think about is just if you don't want to be part of that, then you got to be finding ways that you can, be more resilient so that somebody can't hold that over your head. So I just want to share that tonight. And then I'm kind of catching up on some things here, but I wanted to check out this. I read Yuval Noah Harari's book, so you don't have to, with the Corbett Report. but I don't think that we're going to listen to that on the show tonight, but I'll pop it there in the chat if anybody wants to go check it out. By the Corvette Report. So I think, kind of one of the big things that maybe a lot of us might be kind of more aware of, like, what are some solutions to some of the things that we're seeing in our world right now. And a lot of that has come to me through studying a lot of Mark Passio's work on whatonEarthIsHappening.com. He's got a lot of these videos, and a lot of his podcasts are up here. And it's the concept of natural law. What's God's law versus man's law, basically. And anyway, his whole series is a really great thing to listen to. So I just wanted to bring that up to you guys. Let's see here. But yeah, whatonEarthIsHappening.com. And there's a ton of stuff on here for learning about natural law. There was this whole documentary. I recommend checking out that documentary. And then checking out some of his videos here. And he's got like a ton of interesting videos, like this de facto Satanism talk is really interesting. And so these are some of the cool videos that he's put out. And I was actually there for when he presented this one in Arkadelphia in 2019, The Sacred Gift of Anger, which I might actually play a portion of for you guys. And I think it is worth listening to.
Let's get into the presentation for today. And again, as Carmen said, he specifically requested this one. I had talked about giving this presentation for a little while, and Carmen basically asked me to customize and tailor this specifically for this event, which is what I did. And this is going to be the background for this one. And it's going to get into some heavy, serious, emotional aspects of what a lot of us go through as seeing people who are conscious and see what is really taking place in our world, and do the work of actually trying to wake others up to that. So the title of my presentation is The Sacred Gift of Anger. Yes. So let's jump in. Get as angry as you like. See, I threw a curveball there, right? You know, my tagline is usually get as offended as you like. But, and this caveat I always give at the beginning of my lectures, because for people who haven't seen my work, I think it's important to make them realize why I do what I do. So this is mostly, it's not for you guys, most of you know my work, but this is for the people who will be watching this later. My presentation style is often extremely intense and at times even combative. I won't and I don't sugarcoat my words or my delivery. Some of you may very likely become upset or angered by what I will say during this presentation, and so be it. That will never make what I'm about to say here untrue. The truth, by its very nature, is belligerent, because it wages war against all forms of deception and mind control. I don't present this information to be liked, to be popular, to make money, or to make friends. It's great if, you know, some of those things happen, but that's not my intention. That's not why I set out to do this work. I speak publicly, and I have for the last approximately 12 years of my life, because I recognize that in the crisis that we are in now of overwhelming ignorance and deception, I have a moral obligation to communicate what I know to be taking place in our world to others in an effort to help them to understand it so then they can take action and do something about it. This has been, I feel, a very good common thread that I have heard from a lot of the other speakers of this event. And I like to hear that, and I want to hear more of it, that you guys should not just be the ones in attendance. A lot of you guys know this stuff and should be teaching it to others by this point already. This is about, I am up here to try to inspire you to take the action to do what the speakers here today are doing. And you could do it in different ways. Not everybody has to do it the same way, okay? But it is about getting on the battlefield. It is about actually actively engaging and taking part in this war for our freedom. And that's what the One Great Worker War is about. It's about people who are doing it and who I feel are doing it effectively. And I know that there's many more potential teachers in the audience. So that's one of the main reasons that I speak to people, to try to help inspire other teachers to come forward and teach this stuff. So when we're talking about anger, there's no better poster child than right there, okay? I figured let's start with the self, right? That's where this whole thing begins. It begins and ends with the self. So, you know, I have really expressed this emotion a lot, especially recently for what I see in the world. Freedom of speech being just thrown on the ground and tread upon, you know, what are supposed to be our inalienable birthrights as human beings being practically discarded, okay? My anger recently has ranged from mild annoyance to white-hot rage, okay? What I want to talk about here today is the emotion of anger as something that can actually assist us. People see it always as negative, and we're going to talk about why that is. But if it's used properly, it can actually be a fuel of sorts, as I'm going to talk about. But what I hear from a lot of people in, you know, the audience, okay, the people who aren't actually doing the work, but who are absorbing it, taking it in, right? And, you know, not people who are at an event like this, but, you know, real armchair quarterbacks out there. We all know who people like that, you know, who can talk and talk and talk and criticize. But when you ask the question, what are you doing, you hear the crickets chirping, you know? So, you know, people will say, take Mark with a grain of salt, you know, or I don't trust his information because of it's coming from a place of anger, right? I'll hear, I've read on forums or on YouTube, why not listen to somebody else who presents it in a more calm, easygoing, dispassionate, disconnected way, you know, like not as emotionally involved, right? Somebody like Manly P. Hall. Now, I have great respect for the teacher Manly P. Hall. I think he is one of the greatest esoteric teachers ever, okay? However, if you listen to the dichotomy in styles between someone like me and someone like Manly P. Hall, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's a very emotionally detached presentation style, whereas I tend to present with passion and emotion. That's my style. That's my personality. I have no intention of changing that. That's who I really am. That's who I've always been, okay? Now, I'm not saying you can't learn a great deal from Manly P. Hall or that you shouldn't. Absolutely take in his work, but be prepared to hear an older gentleman with an extremely monotone voice speaking slowly and dispassionately pretty much through the whole duration of his lectures. Now, people will say, because he's delivering it dispassionately, and sometimes I'm yelling into the camera, that somehow that will negate the truthfulness or the veracity of what I'm saying because it's delivered with righteous indignation, righteous anger. So my question here is, see, a lot of people want to work with other people's biases and their mental inconsistencies. I don't want to work with those things. I don't want to capitulate to those things. I want to point them out. I want to explain to people, here's a mind control technique that you've fallen prey to. Look at it. Ask yourself why. Is that your own thought? Or is that a virus that's been inserted into the mind that someone else wants you to think? So my question here is, when it comes to two radically different delivery styles, does delivery change the truth of the matter? Or does the truth remain the truth regardless of delivery style? And I think if we're being honest with ourselves, as we should realize that regardless of how something is said or presented, truth remains the truth. For people to believe that if you say it nice and calmly with a wonderful, sweet tone, that somehow that makes it more true than saying, you better fucking wake up and listen, because we're on a really bad path, and if we don't change it, there's not going to be much time left for us as a species. Does it make it any less true, how it is said? How about if we look at it on the flip side? What if we...
I know I struggle with that myself sometimes, is just getting frustrated on trying to tell other people about what's really going down. And, you know, it does really, like, I do really struggle with dealing with that. Maybe not handled it so well when communicating to other people. And it is kind of funny, like, when I look at it, and, you know, I think most people don't want to have that kind of kick in the nuts situation happen to them. And I think most people are going to just shut down when you kind of lay a bunch of information on them and they're not ready for it. That they kind of have to be ready to receive it. Otherwise, they're not going to want to hear it. And so, I don't know, the best thing that I found to maybe get people to see another point of view is to, like, maybe recommend a book I read or something like that to them. I was telling some of my friends to go check out the Market for Liberty book written by Tannehill. Let me see if I can grab that real quick through Library Genesis. The Market for Liberty. Morris and Linda Tannehill. The Market for Liberty. And you can on Library Genesis here, you can get a PDF of almost any book if you were looking for some kind of book and you didn't want to buy the book or whatever, but you wanted to get the information from it. You can one source is to go to libgen.is and then go search for the title of the book, and you can find most books here. So this is another thing. This is another tool in the toolbox, is something like Library Genesis. And then, you know, there's other cool stuff. Let's see. P. There's this site as well. Unblock It is a good site that you can get, kind of a bunch of different stuff from. So, uh, so yeah, if you want to go check that stuff out, those are kind of a couple places. Uh, Through Unblock It, you can get things like this, all these different book download places, um, and this Sci-Hub place. So if you click on that, it'll take you to like scientific papers, and they're all, a lot of them are referenced by the PMID number. So I wonder if I could explain that to you real quick. PMID reference numbers. PMID versus PMCID. What's the difference? PubMed is an index of biomedical literature. A PMID, also known as the PubMed reference number, is a number assigned by the NIH, National Library of Medicine, to papers indexed in PubMed. PubMed Central is an archive of full-text journal articles. The National Library of Medicine assigns a PMCID, also known as a PMC identifier, to each full-text paper in PubMed Central. Okay. Let's see. The C in PMCID to indicate compliance with the public access policy. Okay, so they've separated these two now, I guess, type of lettering for how you find the journal articles from the NIH, I guess. So, that was August 31st, 2015 when this was posted. But anyway, yeah, Sci-Hub, you would take a PMID number and you would enter it into here. And then if it exists in there under that kind of number, then you you can look up the scientific article and get access to it, getting it around all the academic paywalls for checking out scientific literature. So this is pretty cool stuff. Like if you kind of learn how to go through some of this stuff and get all this information, one thing leads to another. And you start tumbling down the rabbit hole. But regardless of all the rabbit holes, I think I really recommend checking out Mark Passio and all the stuff that he's doing on his website here, whatonearthishappening.com. And then just keep the big thing is I think for everyone to realize is that just take care of what you can, where you are, and make sure that you're trying to become a better person just a better, well-rounded individual, and look into things yourself, question things. Um, you know, a big thing that we're trying to do is just to grow as much food as we can, and just continue to work on that stuff, figure out what's going on in the seasons, what we can do to put in the soil for compost. Those are some big things. Like, if you have chickens, that's like the number one thing that everybody could do, is go get yourself a flock of backyard chickens. Um, because it's kind of the gateway to the rest of, trying to live a more self-reliant lifestyle. And, still trying to figure out the best way of feeding them. And I'm looking at trying some black soldier fly larvae to do something like that. So it's a project for the future. But anyway, I think I'm going to be signing off early tonight. But we'll be back next week for another podcast. And going to see if I can get on a guest for you guys. So appreciate everybody taking a listen. If you appreciated what you heard on the podcast, think about giving me a subscribe to the channel, like, comment on what you thought about the video, and appreciate the feedback. So for anybody that was out there listening, appreciate you guys, and we'll be back next week with another episode. So take care, everybody.